Hello, everybody. I am Brother Luke. Welcome to this Wednesday Bible study for the Church of the Eternally Secure C.E.S. Renee, I posted the link in the chat section for you. I don't know why you didn't get it. Maybe I guess I forgot to email it, but there it is. I just put it in the chat so you can click on it there. If you can't for some reason, I'll email it to you. All right. Let me see. It's Wednesday night. Yay. Bible study. Wednesday is kind of unique in that it is a, quote, Bible study. Here's Renee now. Hi, Renee.
Hey, hold on. I was trying to turn the volume off.
Your face looks funny. It looks like a chair. Oh, I see. That's your chair, but you're leaning
Sorry,
forward.
this is everything's. It's not muting.
It's not what?
It's not muting right. I was trying to get it muted. I was getting echoes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. All right. You're get your camera focused. You're not on. Yeah.
Come on down.
I can.
Okay.
All right, that's good.
Can you see me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your microphone is blocking the bottom half of the screen, though. You need it like that? Okay.
No, I'm fixing it. How's that?
All right, good, very good. Okay, I was saying it's Wednesday night. You know what that means? It's a Bible study.
Yay.
And in a Bible study, you can study a topic or a character or a scriptures. And we're doing the scriptures through the book of Revelation on Wednesday nights for the last year and a half. So we're doing an expository study, working our way through the book of Revelation, verse by verse. And that's why we ask that you stay on topic with us, because that's what we're doing tonight. It's a talk. It's a subject that requires that we can't veer off and take questions on all kinds of subjects, but you can do that on Sunday. And so please stay on subject with us, okay? Let's say hi to everybody real quick. Here it says Donna's the first one to check in. Donna Bianco, how's your mission going, Donna? Haven't heard much about you lately. I never can remember. It's just somewhere like in Eastern Europe or Asia or something. She's a missionary. And Sister Linda here, Lamonia May says hello, everyone. Centurion is here, and Sunny side up. Oh yeah, amen. Natasha.
Natasha's here.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Natasha.
And let me see. Eline says hello. Hammy. Hamster Nation is here.
Oh, Hamster Nation.
Sheila Shoop is a high five, and Brother Tope.
Hey, I can't get him out fast enough. Hi, Sister Sheila. Hi, Tom.
All right. Well, let's not delay. I'll pull the. We're in verse 4, chapter 20, verse 4.
20, verse 4. Okay.
Yeah, we're on page.
I went ahead one.
In the book, we're on page 526, Renee.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to pull the verses up on the screen in the KJV for us. All right. Revelation 20. And let me also put up the. Okay, let me share the screen so you can see what we're doing. Share. All right, so we're going to look at verses 4 through 6. Renee, will you want to read it, or you want me to read it in the KJV? It's on the screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if they can. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll read it. It's fine.
Okay, verses
what
4.
Are we reading?
4 through 6.
4 through 6. Okay.
Yeah, chapter 24 through 6.
I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads, or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years.
Wow. Well, last week, the first 3 verses were so profound that it's so important to understand what it meant to bind Satan. And now we're on these verses tonight that are going to be amazing. And boy, I'm really excited about this. Okay, Renee, let's read it, the commentary on it in the prelim, premill, and the amil. Well, actually, we're doing all 3 now, because now we're not talking about preterism, futurism, historicism, idealism. We're talking about pre-mill, post-mill, and amil. Okay? So you want to read, which one do you want to read first?
Yeah, it's still going to preterism or dispensationalism is still going to affect that.
Oh, yeah, but really, this chapter is referred to as the Millennium chapter. And so how you understand this chapter 20 will put you in one of these 3 camps. So, yeah. All right. Well, we'll learn more about it as we go through. I don't want to jump ahead of myself. I'll just read the premillennial viewpoint. All right. It says, there is much dispute over the identity of the persons who were seen seated upon the thrones in verse 4, whether they were A, God and Christ and the angels, or B, the 24 elders, and we saw in Revelation 4:4, C, the martyrs and those who refused to worship the beast mentioned later in the verse, or D, all the saints of both the Old and the New Testaments. The last view mentioned seems to be preferred by most expositors, Alford, Milligan, Gabelin, and Widener. That's expositors of the premillennial viewpoint. The right of judging was committed to them, which suggests that they participated with Christ in the judicial rule of the nations during the millennium. In that, John also saw those who had been beheaded and who had not worshipped the beast. It has been speculated that they might be here standing before the court being assessed as to how far they were worthy of being called to the first resurrection, according to Lang. However, it is more likely that they belong to the larger company of those sitting on the thrones and are singled out as worthy of particular mention. The reference, what?
I was just thinking that's why they were resurrected at Jesus's resurrection.
Mm-hmm. All right.
That makes sense. The dead don't live again until that 1,000 years. That they've already been resurrected. They were all prophets that were killed for their faith. Remember? Many saw prophets walking around, risen.
So you're talking about in the and it says that when Christ rose, that a lot of the Old Testament people were raised up too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's
could that be a possibility? Because that's the first resurrection. They are resurrected, and it would explain why they were resurrected then, because he was gathering them to rule and reign with him.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a thought. It's a thought. I don't know. if we interpret it that way.
Okay, it says the reference to their being beheaded may represent any form of martyrdom, not restricted to the number of to those who were actually decapitated.
Right.
That's probably a fair assumption. We don't have to say just because it says they were.
Yeah, that because it would be like us saying that put to death or hung, like
Yeah.
some hang them all or something. It's the same kind of thing.
However, someone was executed because of their faith would qualify, I think.
Yes, I do too.
The meaning of the expression "they lived" in verse 4 is hotly debated. Premillennialists prefer to translate the verse, the expression "they came to life," meaning they lived again, and identify it with the first resurrection of verse 5 and 6. This is the resurrection of the saints to reign on earth during the millennium. It is to be followed at the end of the 1,000 years by the resurrection of the wicked for the judgment of the great white throne. Hence, the rest of the dead did not live again until the 1,000 years were finished. Whereas the amillennialist and the postmillennialist do not consider this first resurrection to be physical. It seems inconsistent to make this resurrection out of to be a spiritual one while acknowledging the resurrection at the end of the 1,000 years to be physical.
I agree.
As regards to the text itself, no legitimate treatment of it will extort what is known as the spiritual interpretation now in fashion. If in a passage there the two resurrections are mentioned, where certain souls lived at the first and the rest of the dead lived only in the end of a specified period after the first. If in such a passage the first resurrection may be understood to mean spiritual rising with Christ, while the second means literal rising from the grave.
Why would the first one have to be spiritual?
Well, I'll tell you why when I get to that point. I think that is correct. I think it is spiritual, but we'll get when we get to the all-millennial one, I'll elaborate on that.
Okay.
There is an end to all significance in language, and Scripture is wiped out as a definite testimony to anything. So that was a quote from the premillennial scholar. It is acknowledged by some, such as Milligan and Fawcett, that the vision of the souls in verse 4 of those who had been beheaded must refer to disembodied souls, but this only means that John saw them first in their disembodied states in heaven, whereas they now are seen experiencing the physical resurrection. It's hard to really, for me to just follow all this actually. Though Lang takes the number symbolically, the 1,000 years in verse 4 may be as readily taken literally as any of the other time indicators in the book of Revelation. Stewart writes, quote, "The great question whether this is to be taken literally or symbolically is one that must be settled by the analogy of the book in regard to specific periods. We have seen that the famous periods of 3½ years is to be understood in all probability in its literal sense. Here, then, assuming a similar usage with respect to numbers, we may suppose that the 1,000 years may be taken in their ordinary sense, or at least for a very long period of time. So, of course, the premillennial viewpoint holds to a literal 1,000 years. Most of them do. Though this will be long enough for the producing of many millennial generations of people, individual lifespans apparently will be greatly increased over those currently known. So as you find in Isaiah 65:20, tells us, quote, "No more shall an infant from there live but a few days, nor an old man who has not fulfilled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old," unquote. Peter wrote that the Lord one day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as a day. This may mean that the millennium, coming after 6,000 years of world history, should be regarded as the antitype of the seventh day, which followed the sixth day of creation. So they're relating it to creation was 6,000 years ago. Christ.
The term 1,000 years is never used for a number of actual years in the Bible. Every time it's symbolic.
Yeah, and not just number of years, but even things like cattle on 1,000 hills.
Right. It never means literally a number, an amount.
1,000 generations.
Yes, it doesn't. Yeah, it's not counting the number of things.
Yeah, nowhere else is it ever taken literally. Is it actually 1,000? It means just a large number. A particular blessedness and holiness accrues to the one who has part in the first resurrection, because only they live in the millennium and will escape the second death. Well, all right. To live on in the new Jerusalem, in the new creation. The reference to their being holy may reflect that they shall be priests. Since priests were holy unto the Lord, it is important to note that those thus designated are priests of God and of Christ, a phraseology providing a strong indicator of Christ's co-equal deity with God. As I'm reading that, I'm tempted to stop and argue with various parts of it, but that's what the next column is for. So I'm just trying to restrain myself, and we'll get the opposing viewpoint as we go forward here. But Renee, do you have anything you want to say about this premillennial?
Well, I'm a little confused. Okay, I don't understand why it's insisting about the spirit thing, because that really bothers me. I can't seem to. I don't see. I keep going over in my head. Why does it obviously have to be a spiritual resurrection? I wasn't thinking that at all.
Yeah. Well, I first, it's been probably about maybe 10 years now, maybe a little less. Well, I listened to Malcolm Smith. I don't know if he's still alive. If he is, he's probably 90, 85 or 90 now. Very prominent from England, but I think he lives in Houston. And I heard his teaching on this first resurrection. And then I also heard that oh geez, boy, I'm sure forgetting a lot of names today. Who's the guy that was the Jewish guy that became a Christian? That Aaron Budgen. Yeah, Aaron Budgen taught on this, and they convinced me that this first resurrection and is spiritual, and it's talking about the new birth, the fact that our spirit is brought to life.
Sure, that could happen. That could be the case. I've heard it used that way before, but also.
Well, here's a question that kind of it rests on to me, and that is, Renee, what has to happen for a person to be saved from the second death?
Oh, second death is just trust Christ.
Yeah, you have to be born again, regenerated, quickened.
Yeah, I've heard it used that way, but what I'm saying is there was a literal resurrection of people, and that was a first resurrection too.
Yeah, you
They
could
rule and reign with him.
I'm sure that some people will think that's what the first resurrection is, but
No,
when
it said that. It said that.
it
That's
said
what I'm
that
equating.
it didn't say that in these verses. You may get that somewhere else, but in these
I
verses,
gotta look at the verse.
it says. Let me just look at the verse again. It says.
Yeah, they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years, but the rest of the dead did not live again until the 1,000 years was up. So the other dead didn't live. That means they had to be resurrected in a body.
All right. Well, here's a key. I think that makes me have my conclusion. It says, "Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death have no power." Okay. Now there's only one type of person where the second death has no power, and that's someone who gets saved.
Of course.
So to me, that's drawing the connection that the first resurrection is in order to save you from the second death.
But not all of us
That's a
were
spiritual
martyrs.
resurrection. What?
But this is the thing for martyrs and martyrs and those. So the mark it could be an ongoing thing. It's like we think it's a spiritual thing, just like Ezekiel, had a spiritual mark on his head from God. So could that be an ongoing thing? Because these people did not take the mark or the number of his name, and they went to their death. They're martyred. Is that like talking about those specifically, or is it just naming like all the body of Christ by some of the attributes, like martyrs and the things that the works they were known for?
Let's just go on to the next column, and that'll provide us with answers. And
do you know what I mean?
Not really.
Okay.
All right. Why don't you read the amillennial column, Ray?
Okay. All right. Two views prevail among amillennialists concerning the venue of the saints. Excuse me. In this vision, the older view proposed by Augustine is that the picture is that of the spiritual reign of believers on earth in the present age, symbolizing the victory. See, that makes sense. Absolutely. Through which it is written that we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. Yes, because we're seated in heavenly places in Christ Jesus. Absolutely. An alternative view attributed originally to the 19th century German scholar, I can't say his name, Kleefeld, is the it's like a Sylvester. Is the vision describes the blessedness of the departed saints in heaven after death, but prior to the resurrection. Okay, so let me read that one line again. Is that the vision describes the blessedness of the departed saints in heaven after death, but prior to the resurrection. This is the more widespread view today among millennialists. Okay.
So that's just talking that they're in a spiritual existence prior. That's when people die and they're saved, they go to heaven, and that's the state that they're existing in until they get the glorified bodies.
Yes. The thrones are apparently in heaven, as were those in Revelation. Hold on. Oh, maybe don't kick my shoulder. Got the kitty cat gonna get me. Okay, sorry, I couldn't get the page. Revelation 4:4. Upon which the 24 elders sat. Likewise, the souls of those, that sounds like symbolic too. 24, the 12 disciples, the 12 tribes. Okay. Likewise, the souls of those who have been beheaded for Christ are no doubt seen in heaven here, as they were in Revelation 6:9. The only place for the disembodied souls of saints since the accomplishment of our redemption has been in heaven. And the only time frame during which souls can be found there, sans the bodies, is from the point of their deaths till the time of their resurrection at the second coming of Christ. Thus, the time frame would seem to be the present age of the church, from John's own century to the time of the resurrection. It's symbolic. What he's seeing is a vision. It's not literal.
But what you've stated so far here, this is just a standard viewpoint that we've been talking about forever, and that is that when we die, we leave our bodies behind. We go to this spiritual realm and live with God in the presence of God, waiting for the resurrection.
Yep.
That's all it's really saying.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying, okay, it'll be too hard to explain. This is the period. This is the period referred to as the 1,000 years. The number, quote, 1,000, unquote, is frequently used in scripture without the intention of conveying statistical information. It's not saying there's 1,000 of those or something. It is given as the number of generations to which God keeps his covenants, Deuteronomy 7:9. The number of hills upon which God owns the cattle. Brother Luke said that. And Psalms 50:10. The number of enemies that one Israelite shall chase, Joshua 23:10. Furthermore, the expression, quote, 1,000 years, unquote, is never used elsewhere in scripture for an actual number of years, but only for an never for an actual number of years, but only to suggest the idea of a very long time. And it gives like 4 or 5 different verses for that. The reign of the victorious martyrs during the time of Satan's incarceration is simply a very long time, as the figure, quote, 1,000 years, unquote, generally means. So here, when he says the reign of the victorious martyrs during the time of Satan's incarceration, so Satan's incarceration is for a long time.
Yeah, his binding started when Jesus bound him. He said, before I can go into a strong man's house and take what he has, I have to bind him first. So before Jesus could go to the nations of the world that were Satan's and take it back, he had to bind him and restrict him in a way so he could not prevent the gospel from taking over the world.
Yeah, he saw him fall like heaven too. Fall from heaven.
Yeah. So he's bound in the sense that only in the sense it's not that he can't do evil, but that he cannot prevent the gospel from going to the nation.
That's right. He had them deceived, worshiping other gods, like there was nothing above them, that they were the gods. He can't deceive the people that there's more than one God anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. As a whole, because some people will still believe it, but that's going to be out of choice, not because they don't know the difference.
Yeah. So last week, one of the main things that we tried to emphasize was that let's suppose that Satan was just destroyed and killed.
Right.
Like right in Christ's first ministry. Okay, there's no more Satan. Does that mean that there's not going to be any more sin? No, because man is by nature a sinner.
Yep.
We don't need Satan for us to be sinning. So the fact that the world still has sin doesn't tell us that Satan couldn't be bound if there's still sin.
Yeah, we're capable of evil thoughts ourselves.
Yeah.
So, do we want to go to?
You're on page 530. You're on page 530 now.
Hold on. Why are my pages sticking out? There we go. Okay. I think I might need some water in a minute. I'm halfway down, I think.
No, you're at the top of page 5.
Millennial. I got it. These were those who refused to worship the beast or to wear his mark, verse 4, which means those who refused to compromise despite the world's intimidation. See historicist and idealist commentaries in chapter 13. The phrase, they lived and reigned with Christ. See, that was never thought of as a future event. They lived and reigned with Christ by some, I can't see that word, premillennialist, I think, to the better translated, quote, they come to life. That's interesting, Brother Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they lived and reigned. They came to life and reigned with Christ. That's
they lived and reigned with Christ is just
kind of redundant.
You and I.
It's kind of redundant. If you're reigning, you're living.
Yes, we're living during this kingdom period. All the people who are alive during the kingdom period, we lived and reigned with Christ.
Right, but I like it the way that they interpret it as they came to life and reigned. I like that term better. The way to translate it,
Yeah.
I'd never heard it like that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it explains a little as you go further.
Yeah, to be better translated, they came to life and reigned with Christ. This version is followed by many leading Bible translations. If the latter translation is chosen, the reference will be said to teach a rising of these saints from the dead prior to the resurrection, detailed at the end of the chapter. This reading would support only the premillennialist position, and that it would show that these persons were resurrected before the millennium. Okay.
So I don't like that. A premillennialist would embrace that interpretation, and they came to life because they think it's a resurrection that happens prior to the millennium period.
I thought you can apply that spiritually. Remember, we were dead in our trespasses and sins.
Yes. Well, yeah. You could say if under they came to life, that could also be, that's a good point. That could be understood as the spiritual resurrection. That's what happens when we come to faith. We come to life spiritually, which is the first resurrection, and that's why we don't suffer the second death.
Right.
So it is all connected. So I see that. It makes sense now. It is a useful way to look at it.
Okay. The problem for the amillennialists may be resolved in more than one way. First, it may be that their coming to life refers to their entrance into heaven at the point of their death and does not speak of the physical resurrection at the coming of the Lord. Alternatively, it is entirely possible to retain the translation, quote, they lived, unquote, as simply stating that they lived on in heaven beyond the point of their earthly deaths. Either translation, they lived or they came to life, can be justified grammatically. The first resurrection may refer to the life of the departed saint in heaven, or merely to the principle. Hold on. That'll be interesting. Hold on. Come on. Gracious.
What are your fingers not working? Turn in the
Yeah.
page.
I can't feel my fingers, 2 fingers on this hand. Feature of the time period as a whole in terms of the privileges of living saints as well. Let me read that together. All right. The first resurrection, verse 5, may refer to the life of the departed saints in heaven, or merely to the principal feature of the time period as a whole in terms of the privileges of living saints as well. The scriptures elsewhere teach that there will be only one physical resurrection at the end of time, which will include the righteous and the unrighteous. compare the last day in John. We find this resurrection of bodies from their graves at the end of the millennium. It follows there can be no other physical resurrection than that mentioned at the end of the chapter, and that the first resurrection mentioned in verses 5 and 6 must therein be a spiritual one. Such a conclusion is justified by the fact that the Christian's experience of regeneration is frequently spoken of in terms of a spiritual rising from death to life. They could list all these verses. You know what? That is an issue because they did rise bodily already. So if they got a problem with 2 resurrections bodily, we got issues.
Yeah, but
because they're saying that can't happen.
My impression of the resurrection at the time of Jesus's resurrection was it wasn't like a universal, well, all the Old Testament saints. There were certain selected people that were resurrected for a purpose. So that
I thought it was the martyrs and the prophets that were killed for their faith. All the righteous Abel, from Abel to Zechariah, who they killed on the porch.
But I don't think that verse is talking about the same thing.
I know, but that would make sense. They're being punished for those crimes. So those saints would be able to be risen and see the judgment of the people that did it to them.
Yeah, but I don't think that we can take from the scriptures where it clearly will tell us that the resurrection that's talked about when Jesus rose, some of the graves were opened, and people rose and walked around, and the people recognized them. That was in any way a universal resurrection of all the old believers. But
it doesn't matter. My point is these guys are saying you can't have any other bodily resurrection before the last day. Yeah. So how do they deal with that?
Well, obviously it's clear that there was a bodily resurrection at that time.
Right.
But the reason I think they're taking that position is that there's a difference between, let's say, the resurrection of Lazarus and the resurrection of Dorcas, bringing them to life. And these people also, did they get bodies and live forever? Are they still alive today here on the earth?
But the Old
Testament, they were resurrected in the way that Lazarus was resurrected, as far as I understand it.
I didn't think so. The Old Testament saints rose when he rose because they were stuck in Sheol.
Well, they got to still be alive right now, then, Renee.
Why aren't they?
If they were resurrected with glorified bodies.
Why aren't they?
Well, where are they? What if they were
with him? They're ruling and reigning with him.
No, if they were resurrected.
I'm talking about those guys. I'm trying to tie it to this. I see that. Like the ruling and reigning right now as we speak. They're in heaven right now ruling and reigning. So I don't, if that's the case, what is it that you're disagreeing with?
If I understand you correctly, you're saying that the people who are raised, when it says the graves were opened, right?
Yeah.
Wherever that is.
They were resurrected. They went to heaven in a glorified state, I thought.
Where does it say that they went to heaven?
It just said they were resurrected, but we're talking about Moses and Elijah and all those guys.
Your face is not on the screen if you care.
We're talking about Moses, Elijah, and all those guys. I had always thought that was a full-on resurrection, that they are in their glorified bodies. It's a special thing for these that rule and reign with him because they were martyred and died for him.
I don't think it's clear about if it was Moses isn't mentioned. None of these people are mentioned by name. We know very little about it, but
it does. It says martyrs and those that didn't, that died for their faith.
Let's find the exact verse then. Okay. Let me see if I can search for it. Let me say the graves were opened. That's what graves were opened.
I'd never heard that other way, but I mean, I could see that be possible. I just don't understand it. Why? if these
never
saints were
heard that.
dead a long time, why would
I-
you bring them back just temporarily for them to die again for that time period? I'd never heard that. You can't die more than one time.
But it says Matthew 27:51 through 53. It says, and behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints were which slept arose and came out of the graves after this his resurrection, went into the holy city, appeared to unto many. Let me go to the next verse, 54. 54. Now the centurion. So it changed the subject. That's all we know about it, Renee. That's all we know.
They got bodies. They rose in bodies.
Yeah, they did.
I don't know why I just don't understand this block. Why can't the resurrection happen? What if the resurrection happens? The last day means the last day of each person's life when we stand before God. It's not like one giant day. You know what I mean?
I think the way that the commentator is understanding this, and the way that I understand it, is that those people in the verses in Matthew that we just read, when the graves were opened, and many of the Old Testament saints, and they went to the town and showed themselves. I don't think that was ever considered to be like a resurrection, any different than Lazarus or Dorcas or anybody else, or to show that to show a miracle.
I see. Okay.
Because if they were resurrected with glorified bodies, that means that they'll never die. They're still alive today. All these people.
They're with him. I thought they were with him in heaven.
Why would they be with him if they have glorified bodies living in their?
He has one. We'll be like him. So they have a body like him up there. It's a special thing. I thought they were the martyrs, huh?
Here, this is where I'm losing you. You're saying they're with him in heaven, but
I am tying it together. I get that you don't think that. I get you disagree with that. I'm tying it together.
I wish you could be in the screen there because I'm having a hard time seeing.
My hips really hurting today because I had to do some physical stuff on the set, so I have to have my leg up on this thing.
Right. Yeah,
it's for pain
well,
issue.
I'll just make this final statement about it. I think that for us to say that there's a resurrection. In terms of glorified bodies.
Okay.
Then that only happens on the last day.
I don't have that view.
Any other resurrections are the same as Lazarus and Elijah and Elisha and Dorcas and anybody else who was resurrected to come alive, but they didn't get glorified bodies.
I don't think so. For me, my view is it doesn't matter. But I think the last day, since Revelation is metaphoric and it uses hyperbole and stuff, the last day is the day. Each person, my day will be a different day. But it doesn't have to necessarily be one actual event with everybody there at one time. It doesn't have to look like that. I mean, this is a vision. It doesn't have to literally look that way. So it wouldn't bother me if they were really resurrected in glorified bodies, because he's in one and he's there and it's a physical place. It's just different than here. So,
all right. Well, I guess I don't have any more I can say about it. So,
okay.
Can you finish then?
Yeah.
Read the section?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go on if I don't throw ideas out. I mean, we don't have to. I'm throwing stuff out because I want to learn, not because I'm fighting for it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to.
There's no problem. I just disagree.
Yeah, okay.
So we come to a different conclusion.
All right. All right. This problem I read that part. So I'll start at the first resurrection part. The first resurrection may refer
Where
to.
are you?
Huh?
Where are you?
at the bottom of 530, and how far was I on 531?
You're on page 532.
I got it. I got it. Okay.
And you didn't
Yeah.
get far in the top.
Okay. The scriptures elsewhere teach that there will be only one physical resurrection at the end of time, which will include the righteous and the unrighteous. Compare, quote, the last day, unquote, in John 6:39, 40, 44, 54, and 12:48. We find this resurrection of bodies from their graves at the end of the millennium in verse 13. It follows that there can be no other physical resurrection than that mentioned at the end of the chapter, and the first resurrection mentioned in verse 5 and 6 must therefore be a spiritual one. Such a conclusion is justified by the fact that the Christian's experience of regeneration is frequently spoken of in terms of a spiritual rising from death to life. There's a cat on my head, sorry. But the rest of the dead did not live again. Verse 5. This either means, A, that the blessedness of the saints was never experienced by the unsaved until 1,000 years were finished, being taken only as a contrast to the state of the saints during the same period, but not implying a change at the end of the period. What?
I have no idea. I have no idea what that means.
What was that word salad? Okay. Either means, A, that the blessedness of the saints was never experienced by the unsaved until the 1,000 years were finished, being taken only as a contrast to the state of the saints during the same period, but not implying a change at the end. Okay. All right, that didn't even need to be said. Or it means, B, that while the saints enjoyed two resurrections, the first being spiritual rebirth and the second being the physical resurrection. That's how I saw it. The last, no such, quote, first resurrection, and have only the physical. Let me get to there. The physical resurrection ahead of them at the end of the present dispensation, in parentheses, a, quote, resurrection of condemnation, unquote, according to Christ. So he thinks that the second resurrection is those of the lost. Is that what he's saying?
No. No. They're saying that only the saved have the first resurrection.
Yes, but then it goes.
The lost, they never get the first resurrection. And they only get the physical resurrection at the end on the last day. It's right. Called. There's a verse that says on the last day that there was the resurrection of the just and the unjust. Let me find it.
Then why does it say only? Then he says that only those of condemnation are risen that day. I think he misunderstood it. See, he thinks he's a dispensationalist. That's why. Say, look. Whoever wrote that, unless I'm reading the wrong one, it said, look, and have only the physical resurrection ahead of them at the end of the present dispensation, a resurrection of condemnation, according to Christ.
Yeah, that's the lost. They don't have a spiritual resurrection because they never got saved. They only get a physical resurrection.
Okay, so he's not saying. Okay, so he's not saying that all those risen in the second resurrection are lost people. That's not what he's saying. I just want to be clear. I don't know. It sounded like he was, but he's not. Okay.
I didn't understand your last point. He's not saying what?
Okay. He's not saying that the resurrection of the dead, the second resurrection, is only the lost. Like that is, there's going to be no just people resurrected that day. That's not what he's saying, right? Because it sounds like he's saying, I thought he was saying those in a second resurrection, only those that on the second resurrection are going to be lost people. Because it's the resurrection of condemnation. That's what I thought it was saying. Can you look at it? Can y'all look at it and see if y'all have this?
The lost know no such first resurrection. So the lost never get the spiritual resurrection. They never
Right, of
got
course.
born again. And
Of
have
course.
only, and the lost have only the physical resurrection ahead of them at the end of the present age. In other words, at the end, from between your life, the present time, and and the judgment, that period of time.
Oh,
That's
it's
all we
only
have.
then. Okay, I got you. I got you what they're saying. I get it now.
Yeah, the resurrection of condemnation.
I get
So
it.
let me see, I'm trying to find this
I get it.
resurrection.
I thought it was saying something else.
Let me see.
We're good.
Resurrection of the just and the unjust. I'm trying to find this verse. Okay, here it is.
All stand before the judgment seat of Christ, whether just or unjust.
It's Acts 24:15. Okay, it says, and have hope toward God, which they themselves also allow, that there shall be a resurrection of the dead, both of the just and unjust. This is the primary point where people come to the conclusion that there's a resurrection of all people, everybody who's ever lived, the justified, which means all those who are saved, and the unjustified, everybody else. The whole world is resurrected, whether you're justified or not. And we're resurrected at that one time. It's a universal or general resurrection.
Okay.
Now, there were many other resurrections, as we were talking about earlier, but those were resurrections. I think the distinction that they're making here and that I hold.
Well, I don't have a problem with that not being literal. I have no problem with that not being literal. Like when it says the way you see it, I think the way they're writing it could be metaphoric. I don't think it has to be one literal day where everybody at the same time is standing around the throne. I think it could be, and it wouldn't bother me if each person had their time at their time whenever they pass.
So everybody, you get.
It wouldn't bother me, is what I'm saying. Either way, it wouldn't bother me because that it doesn't have to be that way. Just because it's written that way, because it's a vision. Visions are symbolic, not literal. So
well, I think when it talks about later on, when we get to the part where it talks about the judgment seat of Christ and the great white throne judgment, it talks about how the people are judged after this resurrection has taken place. So that's when the actual judgment of everybody happens.
Okay, well, see, again, that wouldn't bother me if it happened on the day of the person's death. If each person died and they were judged after their resurrection, that wouldn't bother me at all. I'm just saying it doesn't have to.
When they die, they're not resurrected. They have to wait for the resurrection.
I know that's what you're saying, but what I'm saying is it didn't necessarily have to look like it does in the vision. Like I think it's just telling us an overall story. It doesn't have to be that way. I don't have to see it that way. I don't think it.
Okay, you got one more. You got one more paragraph in that section.
Okay. That the saints shall reign with him 1,000 years in verse 6 suggests that the church, seen collectively, in some sense, participates with him in his reign over history during the entire church age. Okay. Well, is there really a church age, or is it just not? It's just eternity forever. There's no church age. 1,000 years doesn't mean we're never going to.
The church age is just the same thing as the kingdom or the millennium. It's the time that when Jesus established the church or his kingdom, when he first came, until the last day, and everybody who came to faith
before the new heaven and new earth.
Yeah, that's the church age. And after the church age comes to an end, when Christ returns, then there's a general resurrection and then a judgment of everybody.
I guess I was thinking like, because when we go on, we go into eternity. We don't go on just for that amount of time. But I get what you're saying. All right. That works.
Yeah, okay. All right, so that's the amillennial interpretation of verses 4 through 6. Now last week I explained the distinction between the amill and the post-mill. And really not much difference, except one is optimistic and the other is pessimistic. The
Jason Jack would like to study the next one.
What do you mean?
About Satan being released from his prison.
Yeah.
He'd really like this next chapter. I hope he sees it.
But the distinction between amillennial, which we just discussed this last column, and we're now moving on to the post-millennial, that they both agree that the kingdom is present, but the difference is, in my opinion, I think you have agreed with this in the past, that the world is evil and it's not going to become almost entirely Christian before the Lord returns.
Right.
But the post-millennium, they believe that the world will become almost entirely Christianized before the Lord comes to
I see it getting worse.
So they're optimistic, and for that reason, they think that we can become Christian nationalists and work to convert the nations. Of course, we want to convert the nations, but I'm not deluded to think that throughout history, there's only been a tiny remnant of people who've ever come to faith, and but why is that going to change as we approach the last day? There'll always be a small percentage, according to Jesus. He said that there's many and few. So few.
We don't realize how few we actually are.
Yeah, I think it's roughly 3% of the population is how I've done the math from my guess, the way I guess it to be. Okay, that's really very few. Okay, here's the post-millennial explanation of verses 4 through 6. The 1,000 years spoken of here refer to the progressive victory of the gospel in the world, especially in the latter part of the present age. Gentry writes, quote, "Postmillennialism expects the proclaiming of the spirit-blessed gospel of Jesus Christ to win the vast majority of human beings to salvation in the present age. Increasing gospel success will gradually produce a time in history prior to Christ's return in which faith, righteousness, peace, and prosperity will prevail in the affairs of people and of nations. And an extensive era of such conditions, the Lord will return." So that's pretty much what I was explaining. That's the postmillennial optimistic viewpoint. The meaning of the first resurrection is not a unanimously settled matter among postmillennial writers. It is said of the martyrs that they lived and reigned for the 1,000 years, which is taken by some to mean that the future victory and revival of Christianity after its earlier history of persecution amounts to nothing less than a rebirth of the cause for which the martyrs died. John Jefferson Davis writes, quote, "The first resurrection then refers to the future restoration and vindication of the cause for which the martyrs died." Barnes similarly writes, quote, "They were exalted in the principles and in their personal happiness in heaven, as if they occupied the throne with him and share its honors and triumphs," unquote. An older view of Daniel Whitby, followed by A.A. Hodge in the 19th century and James Snowden in the early 20th century, was that the first resurrection refers to a revival of the martyr spirit as explained by Strong in verse 4 and 5 of this chapter, refer to, quote, a period in the latter days of the church militant, when under special influence of the Holy Ghost, the spirit of the martyrs shall appear again. True religion be greatly quickened and revived, and the members of Christ's churches become so conscious of their strength in Christ that they shall, to an extent unknown before, triumph over the powers of evil, both within and without, unquote. When verse 5 says, the rest of the dead did not live again until the 1,000 years were finished, it may mean, as Dark understands it, quote, Christ's cause and people were dominant during the 1,000 years, and Satan's allies were subdued till the 1,000 years were ended. And after that, they rose to power again. They rose to their old time power and persecution, unquote. Rushdoony takes the view of many millennialists that the first resurrection is a figurative way of referring to the regeneration of the believer, whereas Benjamin B. Warfield held the view, also among some amillennialists.
Yep, I like it.
The first resurrection is the entrance into heavenly joys, and that these verses present a picture of the souls of the redeemed safe in heaven. This appears to be the view of David S. Dark also. Were you going to say something, Ray?
What?
I thought you said something.
No.
Okay. Chilton points out that the first resurrection may be a reference back to Christ's own resurrection from the dead. Paul refers to Christ as the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep, and as the firstborn from the dead. And as Chilton says, when Christ arose, he rose from the dead and resurrected all believers with him. Thus, the beatitude is not pronounced upon those who have risen from the dead, but rather he who has part in the first resurrection in verse 6. Every believer has part in the resurrection of Christ. That's interesting. That makes a lot of sense. Those souls seen in heaven illustrate that the life they have received while on earth continues uninterrupted by death in heaven. Chilton raises a pertinent question only to answer it. Quote, does the reign of the saints take place in heaven or on earth? The answer should be obvious. Both. The saints' thrones are in heaven with Christ, yet with their Lord they exercise rule and dominion on earth. Having been resurrected with Christ, Christians are to rule and to promote his rule in the world in this present time. Chilton, Rushdoony, and other Christian reconstructionists believe that this rule of the saints on earth will ultimately take the form of a Christian republic where God's law rules. The application of the Mosaic civil ordinances to modern case law is one of the principal concerns in this writing of postmillennialists. In anticipation of a time when all kings shall fall down before him, all nations shall serve him, if the rulers of the world are going to seek to honor God in their lawmaking, the church must be prepared to inform them of how civil law can best conform to the divine standard revealed in the Mosaic statutes. That last part there is what I see happening in America today.
Yep.
With the post-millennialists trying to get a Christian nationalism and impose Christian their view of Christianity on the nation and bring back the Mosaic laws for the country. So they
Yeah.
go back under the laws of Moses, and we'd be like,
Well, we're supposed to be ruled under God, so we should have laws and rules, and based on that. I mean, are you talking more like ordinances and stuff? Like,
yeah, I'm talking
for
about
Sunday worship and stuff like that.
I'm talking about all the laws of Moses, all of them would be back in place.
Why would you do that?
In the United States. Well, I don't know. I'm not a post-millennialist. But they think that would be the best way. And that's
and they're going backwards?
Yeah, it is. It is going backwards. But it is, I think, it's a very small thing. It is something I learned just the other day that surprised me. I know that the premillennial what they call historic premillennialism, that goes back to Justin Martyr time, okay, the 2nd century. But dispensational premillennialism, that didn't start until the 19th century. And now, but what about postmillennialism? There was no postmillennialism until the 18th century and 18th and 19th century. So both of those are only 200-300 years old, postmillennialism and dispensational premillennialism. The only one that goes back through all church history and is prominent throughout the world today in almost all churches, and that is that the kingdom is present, and it runs from Jesus' first coming to his second coming on the last day. That is the kingdom, and it's present. It's ongoing already. That's the position of the church, and we're waiting for him to return. All the creeds include that he will return to judge the living and the dead. All right? There's a lot to that, and one of the things that stood out to me, I hope that everybody realizes this too. Did you recognize how many viewpoints there are on this? Not just between the three columns, pre-mill, a-mill, and post-mill, but even within each one of them, there were various viewpoints. There's so many ways that people interpret these particular verses. It's really incredible. There is no universal understanding of it. It's not standardized and generally agreed upon by everybody. You okay, Ray? Step away.
Yeah, I'm not feeling really good. Can you just give me a few minutes?
Yeah, let me check with the chat room and see what's going on there. Let me see. We've got. I see if anybody has responded to what we're saying. Sometimes they just have their own conversations going on. Do we have apostles today? Apostle just means as an apostle, as it was in the book of Acts, is somebody who actually lived and witnessed the ministry of Jesus and his bodily resurrection. That was the qualification for them to select someone to replace Judas. And now others are called apostles, but they don't meet that qualification, all of them. But they're called apostles because an apostle simply means, another kind of definition for it is if you are sent on a mission. So all the missionaries, anybody who's a missionary, like Sister Donna Bianco, she's an apostle in the sense that she has been sent. She's been called to go on a mission. And where did you tell me where you're working, Donna? Let me look through here and see. I asked you. Hello, precious saints. She says, Donna, if you're still here, I'd love to know where your mission is. I forgot. I know you told me a couple of times. I keep forgetting it. But somewhere Donna is a missionary, and she's in somewhere in Europe. I think it's one of the old communist countries from Europe, like not Czechoslovakia or I don't remember. But Donna, if you're listening, let me know. But that's what an apostle is. But these guys that on the YouTube channel say Apostle Luke, that's that's a claim that I think it is. It certainly takes quite a lot of spiritual pride to give yourself the title of apostle. So many things in the Bible they should not be something that is you claim for yourself. It's something that people recognize in you. Like if people listen to someone because they understand the Bible and they're able to explain it and answer questions, then people would consider that person a teacher. If someone is prominent in a congregation and known for having a lifetime of faith and a lifetime of study, everybody would pretty much recognize them as an elder. It's not a title or a position you claim for yourself. It's just being recognized for who you are. Okay? Let me see. I don't see any other comments or questions. But to kind of sum this up, the post-mill and the all-mill position, a big faction of them interpret the verse of these three verses in the way that the first resurrection is what happens when someone comes to faith. That's the Adam and Eve died spiritually at the fall. They're spiritually dead because the Spirit of God withdrew from them. And so what we need to do, every single person that's born, the objective of a life is to get the Spirit of God back in you, get connected to God. And so when we come to faith, the Spirit of God comes in us and it regenerates us. Our spirit is brought to life, quickened, and that's what the spiritual resurrection. Resurrection means you're brought to life. So it's a spiritual new birth, and then the second resurrection is generally understood as that's on the last day, the resurrection of mankind, the just and the unjust. So that's why the commentary said that the lost will never don't get a first resurrection. They just have the second resurrection. But the saved, we have the first resurrection of our spirit, and then we have the second resurrection of our bodies on the last day. And then we all go to the judgment, and the lost are judged for their failure to receive the gift of life everlasting and through faith in Jesus. And the saved are judged based upon how they serve the cause of Christ for the gold, silver, precious gems, 5 different crowns, and as Jesus called it, treasures in heaven. So for any work that we do for the cause of Christ, there is a reward system at the judgment seat of Christ. But for the lost, they're only judged lacking. You didn't receive the Spirit, so you don't have life. Okay. Renee, are you okay? Are you listening, or are you not well? Okay. Let's see. Golden Street says the last day was 70 AD. Well, that was the end of the age of Judaism. But it wasn't the last day. The last day is when Jesus comes to judge the quick and the dead. That's the resurrection of all mankind and the judgment and the new heavens and new earth. But if you don't agree with that, if you think that the last day was in 70 AD in terms of Jesus returned and then you're a hyper preterist. Are you, Golden Street? Are you a hyper preterist? You believe that there's no resurrection yet to come. There's no Jesus not returning again and resurrecting us. I'd like to know your position on that. Okay, Mike has good news. I keep my housing until I get more affordability. Good for you, Mike. Oscar says, a person who is not saved, is that person spiritually dead? Yes. That's why you get saved. You're being saved from death. You don't have the source of life, everlasting. You just have a life. It's kind of like a fuse. We all born with our dead, our spirits like this. And let's say some are longer, some are shorter, based upon your lifespan. Okay, well, some people live a few years, some people live many years, but that life only lasts so long, and when it's over, it's ended. You will perish. The second death, both body and soul, the death of body and soul. But those of us who come to faith, our dead spirits now are connected to the Spirit of God. So, and that goes on forever, this source of life. We have life everlasting. Okay? The last days, I think we're living in them as possible.
Sorry, we got something from my
start out again in our life. Okay? All right, Ray. We don't need to let that go on any further in the book here. Let's just talk any more about anything that stood out that we need to talk any further about.
Yeah, I just I'm just seeing a lot of different pictures in Revelation, like with the 1,000 years, and I don't know how we can have such totally different views and read the same book. Like some people think it's going to get better, and some people think it's going to get worse. I see it getting worse, not better. So, isn't it weird? I mean,
yeah. I don't know if you listened when you stepped away to what I said, but I made the point that not only do we have three different ways of the pre-mill, post-mill, on-mill, three different columns, but even if within each column, there's two or three different camps within each one of them. And all these people, these comments we're reading here, they're all Bible scholars. They dedicate their whole life to studying this stuff. And yet there's no uniformity. There's no absolute agreement on these verses here. They're very disputed verses. But I'm quite comfortable in my conclusion that this first resurrection is the resurrection of a person's spirit, and the second resurrection is the bodily resurrection. And that's pretty simple to explain it that way. But
that makes most sense to me.
But it did make also a lot of sense too that the first resurrection may very well be the resurrection of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And how did it? I really like the way it's.
Blessed are those who partake in the first resurrection, and we do partake in the first resurrection. We partake in His resurrection.
Yeah. Let me see. That's right. That's what it said in this the statement here that I really like. It says. Okay, it says, thus the beatitude is not pronounced upon those who have risen from the dead, but rather he who has part in the first resurrection.
Yep.
Every believer has part in the resurrection of Christ.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Those souls seen in heaven illustrate that the life they have received while on earth continues uninterrupted by death. In other words, we have part in the first resurrection because we are in Christ.
Yep, that's right. And He was the first fruits of the resurrection. He is the first resurrection.
I could accept that as just as valid pretty much. But the thing that really influences me a lot is when it says in the verse, let me see, let me pull up the verse again, where it says, oh gosh, let me find it. Oh, I did probably a few searches here. Okay, here it is. When it says, blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. Okay, blessed is he. Let me translate it in my way. Very happy. You'll be happy and holy if you have the first resurrection. That is, your spirit is resurrected, brought to life because you believed in Jesus. On such a person, the second death has no power. That's how that verse should be understood, in my opinion. It says, blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. Okay, I'm blessed, I'm happy, I'm holy because my spirit was quickened and brought to life. I have the Holy Spirit, regenerated my spirit, and I have no part, I have no worry about the second death. I have no worry about my salvation. It's because of the first resurrection. That's to me the way that's what really settles it when it says that on such a person, the second death has no power.
That's right.
The only people that the second death doesn't have power are believers.
Yep.
So I think the first resurrection indicates that that's a believer.
Sure. Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just bring up the contrary view just because I want to sort it out. Or I just have a weird idea or something.
Right. But it actually, what you brought up was something I've never actually heard of before, Renee. I don't know if you thought it, if it just occurred to you now.
About what?
Or if it's something you thought and believed for a long time.
I don't know.
But the people who were raised, when it says the graves were opened and some Old Testament saints were raised and they went into the cities and showed themselves. That's all it really says. So we can't really draw too many conclusions. But I've never thought of it as a resurrected person with with a glorified body. I thought of it as they were raised like Lazarus. Otherwise,
I figured they were raised because they were in Sheol and they had to wait for his resurrection. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't bother me either way.
Yeah. All right.
Fascinating to think about, though. Don't you think?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know that's in the Bible.
Oh yeah, that's. I really, I found a new channel that I really like, and his teaching on eschatology, and also especially on the Olivet Discourse, Matthew 24, Luke, what is it, Luke 19, and
get off of her a little bit.
Mark 11. What's that?
Little bit is trying to bother Vega, and Vega is gonna hiss at her. Stop it! You cannot bite everybody all the time. My gosh.
What's he doing?
Trying to bite every time. She wants to jump on all the cats' backs and bite them.
Oh, how many cats do you have now?
Well, she's not ours permanently. My dad's going to adopt her. I got to get Peter to get her fixed and get her shots. And but we have 4. We have Mama Cat, her grandbaby, and 2 of her babies.
Wow, I had no idea.
3 generations of cats here.
Yeah.
I adopted them all, and I found more homes for the rest of them.
Wow.
But that all started with 1 cat. That whole neighborhood was just devastated with stray cats trying to be fed, and it was awful.
My younger sister Kay, her life's passion is rescuing animals, cats and dogs mostly, but she's rescued other types of animals too. But she's gone to great expense and effort to rescue animals, and she's always got at least 2 or 3 dogs and.
I did that as a youth. I had pet snakes, birds. I had everything. I rescued everything. Lizards, tarantulas, stop. She's something else. She's the one that was found stuck in a bush at 3 weeks old. We bottle fed her, remember, with a little dropper?
Uh-huh.
Had her since she's 3 weeks. She's not shy anymore, is she? Look at her. What are you doing? What you trying to do? Are you trying to? She's trying to jump on top of my computer. She turned my camera off 3 times, running across my keyboard.
Yeah.
Funny. But we love having her. It's just the other cats are really annoyed with her because she's a baby. She wants to play, you know?
Yeah. I found a couple of channels that they play music to animals. One is called Plumes, Plumes. This guy plays a guitar and he sings basically Beatles songs. He has a nice voice, but it's real nice, relaxing music. But when he plays, a whole herd of cows will come over, rush over to listen to it, and they just sit there and listen.
Oh, you're kidding!
Yeah, and not only cows, but
you just have like that gift or something.
Yeah, turtle. Wherever he goes, he plays to animals.
What is it? What does he have? Some harmonic that we can't hear? We can't detect?
There's just something about his singing and music. I don't know if other people could.
Got to have a vibration, some kind of wave that we can't hear or something.
But I've seen elephants and rhinoceroses, monkeys.
That's crazy.
Turtles.
Now I did that years ago. Every time I'd put my hand in a shark. They had the baby shark pool, and the baby shark would come and stop right at my hand and just rub and let the water rub it against it. Wanted me to scratch his head. I'm serious every time. And they were like, "Oh, it's just a fluke. It's a fluke." So they put their hands in. Nope. They all took them out, put mine in. He came right back and did it again. I don't know why, but it's something with me in my hand. But I did Reiki back then, so that could have been it. Yeah. But it was. I've always been with animals like that. I've always had that same heart. And I would go broke because I'd save every animal on the planet. I would. I love them all. Yeah.
Well, we got a little bit of time for. If you're interested, I'll play a little bit of this for you. Here, watch this. This is incredible. Let me share it.
Okay.
Share.
Sorry, I'm eating a yogurt bar because my stomach was upset.
All right, here we go. This is so cool.
Mama, take this badge from me. I can't use it anymore. It's getting dark to see. Feels like I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door. Do you wanna go to the seaside? Not trying to say that everybody wants to go. Fell in love at the seaside. Under my charm with diamonds slide around. Well, I'm just trying to love you any kind of way. But I find it hard to love you, girl, when you're far away.
You're always crying to get up on my shoulder, aren't you? Yeah. I love it. Oh.
Great endless day. You know who I am. You know I can't let you.
Oh, birds love it. Birds love me. They'll dance. Bring it back to life. Birds love it.
Look at birds dancing to the music. Look at music. Right in the
Sky. Imagine all the people living for today. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Only as one. Baby, I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. Baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. We'll be counting stars. I see this life like a swinging vine, swing my heart across the line. In my face is flashing signs, seek it out and you should find. Oh, but I'm not that old, young, but I'm not that bold. In New Orleans, there go the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know I'm one. Mama, I'm one.
Cole, he's my miracle child. So how does your miracle child get?
That's
What were you saying?
That's amazing. My animals are coming in too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Behind me on the floor. Vesta's right there. Normal's on the end of the couch, and the baby's on my shoulder. And Vegas on the
got a lot of things to learn. So what's the matter with you? Send me something new. And don't you know the cold and thin and rain don't know. It only seems to come and go away. Sweat dripping down our dirty laundry. No chance that I'm leaving here without you on me. I know, yeah, already know that there's no stopping your plans and those slow hands.
Look at I've never seen one stick their neck out that far that long. Look at that.
Arizona sky burning in your eyes. You look at me and babe, I wanna catch on fire. It's buried in my soul. California gold. You found the light in me that I couldn't find. So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words, every time we say goodbye.
Well, that's really amazing. It's sad that I have to say this, but I really do believe that animals, I seem to like them more than a lot of people. Not,
Me
I won't
too.
say most people, but I mean, there's some really
Me
good
too.
people too. I really love, and you know, and even your average person is probably pretty darn good. But these animals, they're so special, and
Yeah, and you can really see the divinity in the creation when you see the interaction like that. When unspoken relationship and understanding happens, music, things that are just understood instinctively or shared and appreciated instinctively. I think that's amazing. It attests to the divine creation. There's no way to look at that and say that's just matter bashing together and figuring that out. You know,
yeah, yeah.
for what? Why?
I mean, there's just so many really amazing animals, but obviously we're more familiar with cats and dogs. They're the ones that we domesticate so much.
Yes.
But a lot of people, their dog, you'll never have a more faithful, loving friend than a dog. The idea of a dog being man's best friend,
Oh,
nothing.
I was telling Jim the other day. I mean, I totally believe it. There's a famous song in Scotland about a dog. This is true. His master died. He'd go to the pub every night with him. He was a blue collar man, and his dog went up there with him. He'd go in and have a pint, come out every night, and he died. And that dog sat by that man's grave for 10 years. He would only go there. He sat on that grave for 10 years. People brought him food, water, blankets. He never left him until he died himself right there on that grave.
I saw that. I saw that video. Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah. Well, if you ever have fortunate to have a human being that's a good a friend as your dog, then you're very fortunate. Yeah. By the way, my friend Willie he's getting out of the rehab hospital tomorrow. I'm going to pick him up tomorrow afternoon and pray for him that this will be a turning point in his life.
And pray for Tony too, the gentleman I prayed it for earlier.
Yeah.
Willie and Tony, you guys. So how's his mindset? Is he looking forward to trying?
Yeah, he's probably more positive because he was very cynical person,
Yeah.
but now his whole attitude about life and his future is completely changed. I mean,
don't get too. You know how this works. They can get on a cloud for a while and then come down hard crashing when people first get clean. You know, so don't blame yourself if something happens like that. Just look for it.
Yeah. But not only is he expressing a lot of interest in the Bible and asking a lot of questions. Of course, I've shared the gospel with him, and he knows what he needs to know. And
that's great.
I'll continue talking to him about it. But he just seems like his priorities in life are right now.
I hope so.
Let me see.
For your sake too, because he seems like a nice man, good friend to have around.
Yeah, he's been a good friend to me last couple of years, and we've been there for each other. Rachel says, I especially like that they play music for those animals in captivity.
Yes.
They deal with a lack of stimuli, and they can go crazy. Animals are really a blessing and should be treated with much more care.
Yeah, I hate and I am against zoos for that very reason. I think it's cruel. Unless they're bred in captivity, I think it's cruel. If you take them out of the wild and it's horrible. It's evil. So now I found that they only take injured or animals that are in danger of being like extinct and need some help with, that kind of thing. But they don't just take random animals. They'll like the bald eagles, they wait for one to be injured and then because none are in captivity that are healthy. So that's good at least.
Yeah. Now, I've seen some movies like the Twilight Zone episodes, things that show what would it be like if you were put into a cage.
Yes, it's awful.
And creatures would just get to come by and let's go look at human beings and observe them and feed them and stuff. And they really, it's so sad that they're not free to live their lives the way that they supposed to. But
Yeah, it's very upsetting.
sometimes, though, they do develop friendships
That's
with
why
them.
there's no sharks in captivity. You can't get like great whites and those big sharks. They can't do it. One day they die. They've only had one whale shark survive, and that was in Atlanta. And
Really?
he was born there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, let me say now that this Friday I won't be able to do the Friday program, but we'll be back on Sunday. Plus, I hope you'll come and join us for that. And
I'm going to do my best to pop in live whenever I can too. I don't know when though.
Give us a thumbs up, everybody.
Oh yeah, thank you. Okay, let me do that before I forget. Yes.
And I know today was a little more reading than we would like to normally do, but thank you and anybody who stuck in with us and listened. And if you're considering these things, I think that's it's very wise that you will listen to different points of view on theology. We're all solid on who is Jesus and how do I get saved, and all the other things we're free to, and it's healthy. We should have the desire to listen to all the different viewpoints. So if you're mature enough and just fair-minded enough to listen, as the scriptures say, to be quick to listen.
Has anybody seen Michael? Have you seen Michael?
Mike McGregor?
No.
Mike
Anderson.
No, I haven't. He hasn't been here tonight. Yeah.
I texted him a few days ago telling him that I wanted to pray for him. So you guys just keep Mike and his family in your prayers.
Has he been okay?
I don't know. I haven't heard from him and I'm a little worried. But I also want to lift up Vlad and Stephen. You know, we've prayed for Vlad before. He's Ukrainian. I believe his mom is here now. Or I think that was all worked out back then. But we're praying for Vlad and for Stephen and Tony and Willie. And I feel like I'm missing someone. Oh, Tatiana, the little girl. I think it's the little girl that I did a video to tonight.
Yeah, I saw that video, boy. Yeah, I think you're right. It's very probable that she hasn't gotten saved yet. It's not like she's lost her salvation. Right. If she never really understood the gospel correctly, then now it's her chance. Now's her opportunity to hear the true gospel and embrace it.
Yeah, because they're working overtime. All that at one time, the wishing you wanted God, but you don't. You're actually mad at him. Wishing you could stop the civil behavior, but you really don't care. And you're starting to all of that made me think somebody has just put her in a lot of religion, and she has yet to understand the actual faith. So hopefully, it'll get through to her.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so, because that's a terrible thing to feel, to feel that you've been forsaken by God. I mean, my goodness, you must think yourself so bad. That is not a good feeling to walk around heavy like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight, and come back Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Bless you all in the name of our great Savior, God, Jesus.